Hi, and we're back again. Welcome to the 2019 edition of The Grid. I'm Mike Forman, and I'm joined as always by Ray Castillo. And we have a special guest tonight, apparently. This is Typo, the advocat. Typo has lived with us for a while now, and he just kind of hangs out. And as you can see, he's hasn't missed too many meals, but he has a good time, and people enjoy kind of hanging out with Typo. So he's going to hang with us here for this first show as we get ready to start another season, Ray. I mean, was a couple months ago when we were up at AT&T Stadium in Arlington watching that amazing performance by Jordan Whittington and Cuero winning its fourth state title. But now it's another season. We're ready to go again. Bunch of games tomorrow night. We don't have any tonight. There are actually some games around the state tonight, but we'll get started with a full schedule tomorrow. And we're going to jump right into it with the game here at Memorial Stadium. The Calhoun Sand Crabs coming over from Port Lavaca to play Victoria West. Ray, West has done very well against Calhoun. In fact, I think it's won the last three games. Calhoun's had a problem holding on to the ball against the Warriors, and I think that's going to be the tale again tomorrow. If Calhoun's going to win, it's going to have to eliminate turnovers.
Yeah, that's for sure. And like you said, it's been, success. Warriors have had success against the Sand Crabs, and West will be looking to, hopefully that turns in their favor again tomorrow night. You look at, West, a lot of opportunities there for a team that's picked to make the playoffs. You saw what Calhoun did last year, so should be an interesting game. But like you said, Calhoun's going to have to come out on the road and take care of the football, and they got the players to do that.
Well, it's interesting because, of course, Calhoun, returns quarterback Connor Kessler and their fullback Steve Johnson, first-team All-State fullback, had an incredible sophomore year. He's back. The question mark for the Sand Crabs this year is their offensive line. They only have one returner, I believe, from last year. But Coach Richard Whitaker, every year seems to find linemen. He does a good job of that. You flip it over, of course, the Warriors with Tyvon Hardren back. Tyvon is going to be the focal point of their offense. There's no question about that.
Yep.
He needs about 2,000 yards to break the city rushing record, which is held by Jamar Gertie, who went to West as well. I think the big key for the Warriors this year will be the play of quarterback Donovan Harris, don't you?
Yeah, Donovan, he showed some signs of what he can do in the preseason. And you look at last year, it was that Calhoun game where he came in for the first time when Jordan Fillmore got hurt. And he kind of made his mark there, and that's who the Warriors have looked to at quarterback. So, Donovan Harris, he seems to be ready, and Warriors are excited to have him.
Right. Meanwhile, Victoria East, they'll take off and they'll do some traveling. They're going to West Columbia to play Columbia. Columbia, you went to that game last year, handed the Titans a defeat in that first game at Memorial, and obviously the Titans are kind of anxious to turn that around, get off to a good start.
Yeah, Columbia was able to score 15 unanswered points, overcame a 15-point deficit in the second half, scored 20 unanswered to finish that game, and East really hurt themselves. And talked to Coach Gonzalez earlier, and the first thing he said was you got to limit turnovers against them, and Titans are hoping to do that. Obviously a different team, new season, but this time it'll be on the road, so they'll be looking for it with a new group of players. They lost 29 seniors last year, so a lot of new faces, a new quarterback in Ethan White. So it'll be an interesting game for the Titans.
Yeah, having seen them against Bay City in the scrimmage, the Titans looked good in that scrimmage, except they made some mistakes, penalties, those kind of things, which really hurt them when in their drives and kind of pushed them back. And they're going to have to eliminate that if they want to be successful this season. And we mentioned, of course, Cuero and Bay City, and they're going to open the season. And if they have a game like they did last year, it'd sure be worth it. Cuero won that game on a 92-yard fourth down pass with less than 2 minutes left. They had a big halftime lead. Bay City came out, I believe it was R.J. Mitchell, returned the opening kickoff for a touchdown. And Bay City got the momentum and actually got the lead before Cuero came back at the end. Cuero is, I was talking to Coach Travis Reeve. I believe they have like 5 guys who were on the field for that state championship game. So we're talking about really almost a completely new team. And obviously you would like to have more people back. But the good thing, I guess, there is you don't have to worry about a kind of what you call a state championship hangover type thing, because this team really is almost totally new. And Bay City's got some rebuilding to do. Although I talked about R.J. Mitchell, who's he was weighing in at about 240 right now, and he's just a beast. But Bay City's going to have a new quarterback. Dylan Davidson, who did everything for them last year, is gone. So Bay City's got some rebuilding to do as well. So we have some other big games, involving ranked teams. One game which you'll be covering tomorrow night is Shiner and Hallettsville. Big game for the debut, so to speak, of head coaching debut of Daniel Bedecker at Shiner. He's been there for years. He went to school there. He played baseball and football there. So he's no stranger to Shiner, but he's now the head coach. Shiner has they lost their quarterback, but they have everyone else in the backfield back. The big question mark for Shiner is going to be the offensive line, where only one guy returned.
Yeah, and that'll be a game. It's going to be a little weird not seeing Stephen Cherney.
Yeah.
But, we know Daniel's going to come in and help that team out. And, he's got the backfield to do it, like you said, and Doug Brooks, a sophomore now, and Donye Taylor. Can say enough about those guys. And, like you said, the offensive line will have to come up for them, but it's good when you got those two in the back. And Hallettsville, too, numbers were an issue last year for the Brahmas, and this year, they're a little bit better. They got about 32, I believe, is what Coach Tommy Pensick told me. But you look at last year in the season opener, they had 16 on, and that's on varsity. And so those guys are going to come out. They got a new quarterback, Linhart. He moved from wide receiver, so we'll see what Lane can do. And those guys, they just want to win again. I went out to practice a couple weeks ago, and those guys were telling me last year was not fun at all. And hopefully it's going to be a tough task in the number 3 team, in the number 3 Comanches, but both teams will look to be ready.
Yeah, and of course Shiner will have a new quarterback as well.
Yes.
It'll either be Devin Linhart or Tyler Palmer. One of those two will take over, but they're still going to be running the veer, although they may spread it out a little bit to try and take advantage of their speed. But that'll be real interesting. Now, we do also have a game involving 2 ranked teams, and that's Refugio, who's ranked number 1 in Class 2A Division I, is going down to El Maiden to play Tidehaven, which is ranked number 10 in Class 3A Division II. This game they had to flip these games because last year Tidehaven was having issues with its field, and they played the game in Refugio. Now, technically, this Refugio could have played this game again in Refugio, but Coach Herring said he didn't feel that was fair to do to Tidehaven. And by the way, this Tidehaven's got new turf on its field, so they're going to break that in tonight or tomorrow night, and that'll be a good test for both teams to open the season. We did want to mention, of course, St. Joseph last year at this time was playing Bloomington.
Yeah.
Well, both those teams agreed to go separate ways, and so St. Joseph won't open until next week, and Bloomington will be playing Robstown instead.
Yeah.
And that'll be at home as Coach Chris Horn looks to turn things around. Both those teams actually, I believe, lost their last 7 or 8 games, so they've got some issues to work out, as you know.
Yeah, Chris Horn coming in his second year. St. Joseph, 2 second-year coaches there. Well, they're not playing each other, but Brian Jones coming back for the Flyers. So.
Yeah, that's right. And of course, one thing we did want to mention, if you haven't had a chance, I would suggest you go out and pick up a copy of today's Victoria Advocate. We have our kickoff magazine in, and not only do we have some stories and schedules in there, but we have the rosters of all our area teams in there. So that's something that you can be handy and use throughout the season, which will come in handy. And we'll be covering, all as many games as we can. We actually we'll have some other games we'll be covering. One other game we'll be covering this week will be the Battle of Mustang Creek between Louise and Ganado.
There you go.
And as they square off, and so that should be a good one.
Mm-hmm.
And a number of teams in action, also ranked teams. Yoakum will be at home against Bernie. Goliad, I believe, goes on the road to play Columbus.
Yes.
Both those teams are ranked. So a lot of teams are jumping right into it. I mean, here it is, the end of August, and the goal of every team, obviously, is to be playing towards a week before Christmas at AT&T Stadium.
Yeah.
So we'll have a lot of games this week, and you can follow the scores, follow our Twitter feeds, and also check advosports.com for updates and scores, final scores of all the games. And we'll be with you pretty much every Thursday, of course, unless there's a Thursday game
Mm-hmm.
this week on another edition of The Grid.